All right, welcome back, everyone. It's been a little while since my last upload, and there's a good reason for that. I've actually been working very, very hard on something that I want to unveil to you guys right now. So it's a pretty big announcement, and here we have it. So, for those of you that are familiar, I have previously released a Palantir Technologies Excel sheet that has a lot of nifty features. You often see these Excels in my videos when I do analysis and so forth, or when I post charts on X. So what I've been spending hundreds of hours on is actually professionally formatting a Robinhood Markets Excel sheet as well. So I thought that I should take you through the Excel sheet and have a look and give you guys some information about it. It's been a while. It has some more features than when I released my Palantir Technologies initial video on this. And by the way, I was very, very surprised that so many people bought the Palantir one because I thought that this is like so niche. Like, people don't really look at numbers. They don't really care about charting stuff. They just want the headlines. They don't really care for the analysis. They might come to my channel to get that from me instead of doing it themselves. But actually, quite a few people got the Palantir one. So let's take you through the Robinhood Excel sheet here. So the first sheet is just a dashboard. We have the price to sales. And this is the most accurate figure you can find. Typically online, there's a delay, or I'm not really sure how different pages calculate it. But this just takes the current quote, which is automatically updated. As long as Microsoft doesn't glitch out. It does that sometimes, but for the most part, it takes the current quote and then it looks at the actual trailing 12-month figures. So we got the price to sales, price to earnings, price to free cash flow, enterprise value to sales, and enterprise value to free cash flow. So pretty basic. I have some quick line item summaries with the spark line, so you can see 5 quarters worth, as well as the trailing 12 months for some of the most basic things like the revenue breakdown, funded customers, average revenue per user, assets under custody, operating income, net income, earnings per share, adjusted free cash flow, and then some margins, and then trailing PE and sales, so you can get that at the end of the period for like Q1, Q2, Q3. So you can track how the P has been developing and what the current P is. So instead of trailing 12 months for these figures, that is the actual current one. Let's go to the next part, which is the major one, which is the data. So this I've been compiling. We have an index here for all the data, so you can quickly jump to where you want to go. For example, if I want to go to the revenue statistics or the disaggregation of revenue, so basically the revenue breakdown, I just click there and it takes me there into the sheet. So sometimes Excel will glitch out and you will have to scroll down, but it highlights the cell here. And then you have all the way back to the initial public offering filings, as well as all the quarterly and annual reports. I've compiled all of that data for you. So you have all these different types of numbers. I break down and calculate KPIs for you, so you don't have to do anything like that on your own. It's basically all here. Even like the revenue per employee numbers, the way Robinhood reports it and the way it's typically done. So I offer both. There's just a lot of data if you want to analyze Robinhood. And also a pretty nifty feature is, like, as you can see now, this is all quarterly, but if you want to change that and go to an annual view, you can do that as well. If you want to look at the yearly breakdowns instead, you can do that, or you can just switch back to quarterly if you prefer that. So that's a pretty nice script that I've implemented. So you might want to enable macros when you use this to use some of the features that are in the Excel sheet here. So yeah, interest earning assets, trading metrics that they report, and then I calculate some other things. So on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis, they give us some trading metrics like volumes, the daily average revenue trades, and stuff like that. But I also include some other equities data that we can use to calculate Robinhood's equity market share, for example. So it's not just what Robinhood reports, it's a lot of own calculations using that data as well. That benefits you to really save time and not have to do it all on your own. So a lot of KPIs in here. Even like the 13F filings to see institutional holdings. Basically everything from the filings that is like of note, it's in here. For example, if you want to look at like the share compensation analysis, you want to look at like the stock options, the RSUs, both on the market and time basis, like it's all here. I calculate it cumulatively. Everything is here for you. So basically almost 1,000 rows of data. And if there's some data that you are missing and you want to have in the sheet, you can just request it. I will update it for free. And I also update this sheet every quarter for free and send out a new version. So yeah, there's a lot of data in here for those that want to look at Robinhood in more detail. And also at the top here, so I have a summary of like the most typical things you might want to look at. So you can just get that straight here, like in short format, instead of having to dig through like on a deeper level. You can get most of the things like quick and dirty. For example, the balance sheet, I break out all the cash and equivalents, the debt, and then you have net cash. So it's not like the whole balance sheet where you don't have to calculate all of that yourself. But if you want to do, you just go to balance sheet here and it's all as filed as far back as Robinhood has officially reported it. There are some sanity checks throughout where we look at ensuring that the numbers are accurate by having some checks. So as long as this is green, everything is fine. I also have the monthly data that they report. So instead of having it annually or quarterly, you can get it by month. And at the end of every month, every 3 months rather, you get the quarter. And then we check to ensure that it actually matches up with what was reported for the actual quarter. So ensure that all of these numbers are correct. And sometimes there are some rounding errors. For example, here we have a difference of 1 million in the trading days. Well, not 1 million, 1 day rather. Or for example, here we have in the total cash sweep, there is a difference of 1 million. So I double check, okay, is something wrong or is it a rounding error? And then I just put comments like, yeah, this is as filed, so it means it's a rounding error in this instance. So everything is commented to be clear and concise for you. But in addition to all the data, if you want to get into and dig into the data, I also have my own charting system, which you might have seen in my YouTube videos. So there are some instructions here. Also, I say if there's some issue with data, you can do this. Or if you experience problems with like charts resetting their formatting, you can do this. It's just typical Excel glitches that you can adjust by looking at the comments there. But the way it works is you have a category here, and then you have a chart. So I've basically built all of these charts from scratch and categorized them. So for example, if we want to look at revenue, maybe we want to look at equities yield or the equities take rate if you prefer that. We can just click it here, change chart, and then we get the chart of the equities yield, either quarterly or annually if you prefer that. And again, as far back as it goes. So it's pretty nice. Options, volume yield, you can get that. Segmented revenues, you can get like the breakdown of the revenues, or if you want to just look at subscription revenue, you can do that. And yeah, here's a jump in the year over year figures because in the periods connecting these two, there is no quarterly data. So we don't get the year over year, but it's not broken in the annual one. So sometimes because of how Robinhood filed at their offering going back to like 2017. Not everything was reported consistently, so sometimes there are some glitches in the earlier periods, but after that it's typically fine. Transaction revenues, basically everything you want to look at is in revenues. KPIs, you want to look at the assets under custody breakdown, you can do that. You want to look at just simply how much assets under custody, can do that again, quarterly, annually. How many gold subscribers are there? You can break that out, and then you get the gold adoption rate. So basically, when I made these charts, I had to like think, okay, what is most relevant that people want to see? Without adding too much, because of course here you could add like quarter over quarter growth, year over year growth. I know in my Palantir sheet, there are some pretty messy charts that just have too much information, so I try to keep it as simple as possible. So sometimes the chart will be missing some data, but of course you can just adjust it yourself. You just go select data, and instead of the gold adoption rate, you just press here, and then you can choose subscriber growth. So you just choose that instead, and then you have the subscriber growth. So it's really simple to adjust if you don't like my preferred way to look at it. Monthly active users, annually, quarterly, net deposits, basically average assets per user. You can have that as well. That's not something Robinhood reports. I calculate that myself. Trading metrics, we get all of that stuff like, okay, what's Robinhood's market share looking like? Okay, we can get that. How are the options volumes looking like? Okay, they look like that. So anything you can think of, it's here charted for you, pre-calculated and pre-made by me, so to save you time. So basically the point of these sheets is to save you time. As I mentioned, I spend hundreds of hours creating this, and typically when I look into a new company, I have to spend at least like 80 to 100 hours to make like a messy, like not professionally formatted Excel just before I can even start analyzing. So it really saves a lot of time. Rule of 40, you can get that. You have the 40 line. If you want to look at adjusted free cash flow, you can do that. It's been negative for quite many periods for Robinhood in this case. You want to look at customer acquisition cost, you can do that. Of course, Robinhood does not report that, but I calculate it for you. And I also charted average revenue per customer. So you can see like basically what's the payback time in terms of quarters here. So as long as average revenue per customer is higher than the customer acquisition cost, it means that the customer pays for itself within a quarter, basically. And the higher the difference, the quicker it is. So, for example, here in Q1 of 2025, it costs $66 on average to acquire a customer. Like if you look at marketing spending and stuff like that. But the average revenue per customer was $145. So basically, in 1 month, the customers paid for themselves. Well, a bit more than that, but you get the gist of it. Gap margins, adjusted margins, a lot of stuff. Miscellaneous, I have, for example, institutional ownership. Surprisingly, it is at the same level as when Robinhood went public, which was quite a shock. I think this company has really shown high levels of execution. So I was kind of shocked at that. Net cash, outstanding shares, stock-based compensation, and as a percentage of revenues, of course, in 2021 when they went public, it looks very different. So yeah, basically everything you can think of, it is here. Typically, I find new stuff to add to the sheet and chart every time there is an update, like quarterly, for example. So you can look forward to a lot more charts in this charting system. I think it's pretty neat and easy to just look at annual and quarterly and get all the stuff you need. For fun, I also added the Robinhood dashboards that they present in their earnings presentations. Sorry. For example, they have a slide called business highlights, and they have one called financial highlights. And here again, you can choose if you want to look at it quarterly or annually. And I go back as far as possible. Typically during the presentations, you only get like a set amount of periods, but this looks at it completely. So I will zoom out a bit just so we can see all the charts. So for the business highlights, it's just funded customers, gold subscribers, net deposits, and total platform assets, which is assets under custody. And I chart it up for you. Basically, you can get the same here, but I just wanted to recreate those slides here so that people are familiar with in like a similar format in the same like layout and stuff. And similarly here, for the financial highlights, you get the same. So yeah, typically data goes all the way back to 2017. I'm sure there might have been some other data points that Robinhood released prior to 2017 that are not in the filings. I haven't included those, so only the SEC filings. So yeah, some charts, data, but of course I also include my valuation model for the company. Now, a lot of people find this interesting. And historically, I have been sharing this publicly. I probably won't be doing that in the future anymore. So I often talk about valuation on the channel. You guys are familiar with that. And I value businesses, and that's a key and core part of the way I invest. So basically, I share my valuation model with you guys in the sheet where we go through my projections, what they've been doing. Basically, I like to break out all parts of the business. So for example, here we have transaction-based revenues, and you can look at how I grow all of the different business segments. And you even have like the per user breakdown. So if you want to track, okay, in my forecast, what is the average revenue per user looking like? So it goes from 121 to 405 by 2034. Similarly, instead of just average revenue per user, I look at transaction-based revenue. So how much is from transaction and how much is from just interest that they are getting from the assets. Or rather, this is how much interest earning assets each user has on average, and I expect that to grow about 2.5 times or something like that by 2034. You get it's not important, but just to visualize, I like break out, okay, what's the revenue breakdown looking like? And it is pretty similar. I just have subscription-based revenues decreasing because I have that portion being taken up by both interest revenue and transaction revenue. Something like that. So you can track and visualize. But basically, this is the intrinsic valuation part that builds off of the revenue bill and stuff like that. So the free cash flow to the firm. It is adjusted for Robinhood, where we don't look at the working capital, because the type of business Robinhood is, where there's a lot of movement of working capital, you get really skewed free cash flow to the firm numbers that doesn't really represent the company's ability to generate cash. So this is more focused on the operation side of the business minus the working capital, because you will have some periods that are like negative 250% free cash flow to the firm, and then you will have some that are up 250%. Like, it makes no sense to include it. I do the same for Virtu Financial, for example. But yeah, and then you get the fair value per share of the model, and of course you can adjust this as you see fit. Like, you don't have to keep mine, of course, it's just there as an example. And I also include a reverse DCF, which is basically the opposite. Instead of forecasting the numbers and getting a fair value, you start from the actual quote. In this case, Robinhood is trading at $63.5 per share. And then you're like, okay, what is baked into the price? What is the market expecting when Robinhood trades here? So you can just change the growth rate and the cash flow margin, and then you can reach what the market is implying. So here you're not actually trying to do your own forecast. You just look at, okay, what's the market expecting? Is that like super high or super low? For example, if the market was expecting Robinhood to grow at 10% revenues compounded for 10 years and only have like 5% margins, then Robinhood would be worth $10 right now. And this also includes share dilution. Important to keep in mind. But yeah, so if Robinhood was trading at $10, then the market is implying that, yeah, Robinhood is only going to grow revenues at 10% and they're only going to have 5% free cash flow to the firm margins. And then you'll be like, wait, that makes no sense. Robinhood is obviously going to be a lot higher than that. So then it might present a buying opportunity for you because you believe that the expectations set by the market for the company are unreasonable. So that's the way that you can use a reverse DCF calculator. There are some instructions here. I typically don't use this as much, but I know that people are interested in it, so it is available. Typically, I just focus on my own valuation and don't care so much about what the market is implying. That is available, so yeah, I think that's a good summary. So you have the charting system, the dashboards, all the monthly data from the beginning of when it was reported, and you can break that out month by month or on a quarterly basis, which kind of makes no sense to do it on a quarterly basis because you have that here already in a lot more detail. And then, yeah, data that goes back to 2017 for everything else, basically as far back as they have reported to the SEC. All available and compiled for you, so you don't have to do it manually the way I had to do, which is very tedious and takes a lot of time. So yeah, the question then is, where do you get this? Well, you can now get it on Type F Capital. So a lot of people got the Palantir one, as I mentioned. So yeah, you just go to Type F Capital, you scroll down to financial models. So there is a Palantir one available. This is the original one. I recommend reading the description and you can see the latest update. So whenever there is an update, you get free updates sent to your email. So yeah, free updates will be provided to customers whenever there is one. So typically those are with quarterly earnings. But also if I add new features, I will email that out. So everyone that got the Palantir one, you can email me and I will send you a 50% discount code for the Robinhood Markets one, because I also offer a bundle, which is basically you pay full price for one and then you get the other one discounted by 50%. So if you get the bundle, you save about $150 or something. Yeah, roughly, like plus minus a few bucks, but yeah. So the bundle is available where you get both Robinhood and Palantir sheets. They are pretty much equivalent in terms of how extensive the data is, and the features of the sheet are pretty much the same. They both have the charting system, the dashboard, the valuation data, stuff like that. So available on Type F Capital now. For the Robinhood one, with this I also introduced a Google Sheets compatible version. Now, I know that not everyone has Excel, but most of the custom features like the charts and the quick script for changing between annual and quarterly, that actually uses code meant for Microsoft Excel. So that is not available in the Google Sheets version. But some people might just be interested in the data and the valuation and the dashboard and stuff like that. So I send you a Google Sheets compatible version for free as well. And I will be emailing that out to everyone that already had the Palantir one. So you will get the Google Sheets one for free updated. And similarly, whenever I add a feature, you get that for free. For example, right now I am working on a web-based charting tool. So you can chart up whatever you want from these Excels on your own. That will also be included for free. So whenever I add features, like you only pay once, you get everything added on top. Like later on, you get that for free. Like the price won't change. So that is good to know. I probably have some streams where I looked at like the charting tool, like early development of that. So on my channel, if you go to like the live streams, there is probably some streams of that. But yeah, I will be launching that as well. So you just go to the site, you load in your Excel sheet, and then you can start building charts in any layout you want. You can chart any data points you want, any growth rates, stuff like that. It will be very extensive and looks really, really good, if I may say so myself. Probably better than the Excel charts, probably better than anything available on the web today. And of course, the data is, of course, like, I don't know of any data source that is more comprehensive than these charts. So if you want all the data for either Robinhood or Palantir, that is now available on Type F Capital. And if you want to get the bundle, it is available. All the Palantir customers, as I mentioned, will be receiving an email. So just let me know and you will get a discount code for the Robinhood one for 50% off. That also goes if you want to just support me, like you don't really care for analyzing, you just want to find a way to receive something while also supporting me, you can consider getting any of these models. Or if you want to get something that takes a lot of time for me, as I mentioned, roughly like 80 to 100 hours, you can also commission an equity research report that is available here. So you get like a professionally formatted Excel with like the charts. So typically what you would get from a Wall Street firm, like a complete analysis of any business that you want. Only caveat is that it has to be US listed, like listed in the US equity markets. And I will analyze it for you and send you the report. And in addition to the report, you also get an Excel sheet with all the data that I used. Also includes the valuation model and stuff like that. So it will include a complete breakdown of the business, my analysis of it, a valuation, everything like that. So that is also available. And with that, I think I covered everything. So yeah, please consider looking into the financial models for either Robinhood or Palantir. Maybe commission an equity research report if you want to either support me or analyze yourself. Catch you in the next one. Don't have a good outro. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be back to regular scheduling with analysis on the channel. So please look forward to that, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.